Scarol turns torturer. Aaron tries to connect with Gamma, and Saddiq discovers the source of Alexandria's sickness. Seeing the truth always requires one thing. It's The Walking Dead, Season 10, Episode 7. Open your eyes. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So, as usual, lots of spoilers coming your way, and as always, check out our quick jump index system. Right in the description below, have this entire review titleized and time-stamped. You can jump to the end of the review first, you can watch the beginning last, you can watch this review in any order you like. Alright, so, open your eyes. Almost at the end of this half of the season, only one episode left, so we got a lot of setup, a lot of movement happening in this episode, and do want to remind you all, this comes to you by our very own Abraham. That's right, Michael Cudlitz directed this episode. He knows the world, and honestly, like I said, a good episode. A lot of stuff happening. It's like just now we're pushing forward. We got a lot of stuff going on. We've got Carol trying desperately to get some information on the Horde and not really working out the way that she wants it to. Aaron making some connections in with Gamma. Those were some nice scenes of little teasings of what the world can offer. And in fact, that's where I think the communities are coming from a smart spot. That conversation Lydia had with Carol, and the world of Alexandria and Hillside and everything can't exist from a Whisperer standpoint. So the fact that it does is already a temptation, showing that Alpha's hold, that Alpha's promises, that her word isn't entirely true. And once these fractures can start to come in, these realities of larger worlds of bitter possibilities can come in, the hope is that will eventually fracture up the Whisperers, which I think is a good approach. Certainly a lot smarter than the direct approach, which doesn't really work out so well, because this is a very sneaky, underhanded kind of situation. No one discovering that, of course, more than Saddiq, who is over his head with the sickness spreading through Alexandria, and dealing with a lot of his own trauma from his interactions with this Whisperers. Those really come to head in a very powerful scene with Rosita, and then followed up with the discovery of Dante's betrayal, and one more loss for our communities. So a lot of stuff happening, a lot of repercussions coming out of this episode, making our big mid-season finale to come so much more impactful. Alright, so let's kick things off with Carol's Whisperer prisoner and the hunt for information. Carol really crossing the line, and I like the fact that they dealt with that pretty much immediately. With Gabriel's confrontation of what have you done? You have endangered everyone else. Him looking to make sure that our prisoner has medical treatment. Carol much more interested in getting answers. He'll be with us till he bleeds, or something like that. I believe is a line that he uses. So, seeing a lot of Carol's obsession here. And when we're talking about opening your eyes, again, a big theme through this episode, we get kind of two aspects of that with this section. One is kind of Daryl's perspective, who is thinking the best from Carol and definitely constantly backing her up, even with when Gabriel's confronts, when he's just like, it doesn't matter now. This is what we're dealing with. I mean, he's a very pragmatic individual. But I'm wondering if he is his, let's say, love of Carol, his long connection with her is blinding him to seeing how far that she is going to go. And I think this is a lot that he is sort of struggling with this part of the episode, is I want to back you up, but I need to rein you back in as well. I don't want you overstepping any lines. So it puts sort of Daryl into some interesting positions throughout this, where again, some ways pulling her back, in other ways maybe even going a little bit more forward. Carol, on the other hand, look, we know how far that she's willing to go. We have all seen the depths that Carol can dive into when stuff has to happen. I love how they twisted it up. Her conversation with Lydia, which I touched on in the opening here a bit, talking about that this world is dangerous. If word spread, Alpha may not be able to stop it. It's the reality of a different world from what the Whisperers are. In some sense, they need to open their eyes to these greater possibilities themselves. And I think they build up one of my favorite scenes. We've got 3 potential scenes of the week. This was one of them. And that's the first torture scene. Because they set it up so perfectly. Carol has been talking all badassery. She's going to go as far as she's going to need to. Walks up, asks the question, sets the plate down in the jail cell with the little towel covering on it. You know, when we get that nice intense moment like, okay, shall we begin? Let's go. And pulls it off and you're thinking, okay, here's going to be all the torture implements. And it is. But not the way you think. It's bread and jelly and butter and honey and... again, it's such a perfect twist to do. I'm not going to torture you. I'm going to show the possibilities that you don't even think can exist. I'm going to remind you in the most powerful sensory way possible. Smell and taste. And again, just a wonderful scene. The look on our prisoner's face when he sees all this. Carol's just like, honey or butter? Apple or strawberry? All of it. Of course. And just, again, the look on his face played so well that surprise and the joy and the tears were just felt for him. And I was like, this is going to do it. This is it. This is not what he was expecting at all. And he's going to give it up. But no. He spits it right back into her face, showing that it's definitely going to be the hard way. And it's, fine. She gave that opportunity. But I just love the fact that she did approach it from a different direction. And it really was, I think, almost effective. Maybe she pushed too far with the salted fish for lunch. And again, just a dramatic way to end that whole scene of just spitting it back in her face. And saying no and saying now it's going to have to go the hard way. Which it does for a short period of time. We do get some Carol torture going on. And this is where I was thinking that Daryl's going to have to step in and pull her back. So the minute that he kind of does, but then pulls out his knife and is like, all right, we're going to go for the fingers first and then the ears and then we're going to pull out all of your teeth. It's like, okay, he's back on her side. Again. What other choices do you have? They need the information. It's not like you can just let them go back to the Whispers at this point and report to Alpha. So they're in kind of a tough spot. And of course, at that point, that's when he sort of drops that bit of information that Alpha's the one that cares for him. Alpha is the support. I mean, you can see that loyalty. It's what Lydia said. Only the loyal watch the herd. And we can see that depth of the loyalty given all of these possibilities that he's still willing to stand up to Alpha until maybe the point where he's going to realize that Lydia is still alive. Given the opportunity. But just that line of Alpha has killed her own daughter. She takes care of all of us. That's the chink that everyone is waiting for. It might have worked. Except for the hemlock bit. And that, of course, brings us to Saddiq's journey. A very central character in this episode for obvious reasons. It's his last episode. And that is often the case. Whenever there's any character-centric episode, I'm like, uh-oh, this person's in trouble. But the way they deal with the whole, again, transition, dealing with the sickness, the overwhelm, the exhaustion, the breaking down of Saddiq, I think they do that really well. I mean, starting off with his visit with Scarol, the old lady that Dante was joking with before in her first diagnosis. Now really going out. You can see how the frustration in Saddiq's face as he does these journeys to go and help everyone. And one of the great things they do in this is they're constantly having Saddiq give people water. It makes sense. You're sick, you got to stay hydrated, people are throwing up, you need to keep them. But I think that that's a great thing in every scene that they do with Saddiq. Not only just in the beginning establishing, but even later on when he's visiting Rosita and such. Every scene he's giving people water. Which is great because in his mind he's trying to help, but he doesn't know that he is just constantly making everything worse. He is reintroducing sickness to them every time. It was a nice bit of directing done. It was a nice continuing thread shot of just how much his effort is really undermining what he is trying to accomplish, and he's completely unaware of it. I think really, really well done. Great little bit with Rosita there. They have a little connection. I love that Rosita's talking about Eugene, and Saddiq's like, "Oh, your other guy." It was just great. And also, kind of supporting Eugene. Hey, Eugene bounces back. Not everyone does. Because, of course, what he's dealing with throughout all of this is those whisper flashbacks, which are getting worse and worse and clearer and just handled so well on each of these scenes. How you can see Saddiq's mentally dropping down. These images, these fears are getting clearer, they're getting more intense. He can't push them away. It's affecting his sleep and his ability to do his job, which is why when our prisoner dies from hemlock that Dante accidentally gave him, that scene does really well in two things. One, it puts our focus on Dante. What are you doing, man? Why'd you give this guy this stuff? What the heck? And then they immediately reverse it. Again, it's a great use of storytelling there. Put the focus on the guilty guy and then take it away from the guilty guy for obvious reasons or good excuses that Dante can give. I didn't know. I didn't think it would be in the bag. You packed it, Saddiq. And I think it's the point Scarol has already mentioned, like, you need to get some sleep, you need to rest. Not for me. I've already made my peace with death. It's for everyone else that you've got to get rest. You've got to be thinking clearly on. And this, a completely tragic result of possibly pushing himself too long. Also, is he getting sick as well? I'm sure he's drinking water too. So they do a great job of really showing Saddiq's mental status throughout this, reasons why that's falling apart, how that is affecting his work, and again, a great mix when we get to see who's really the guilty party, but then it turns it back around. You pack the bag. I'm a new doc. I don't know what hemlock looks like. So again, just a great whole setup throughout this of really focusing on the effects that the Whispers have had on Saddiq and how that is affecting his ability to work and do his job around the community. Which gets us to our Scene of the Week for this week. And like I said, there's a few of them. There's one more which I will touch on in just a minute. And yeah, there's bigger action sequences for sure. But this is Saddiq owning the screen. Just when he does his panic and he runs out and it's like he's having a heart attack. Dealing with all these flashbacks in the area and just that whole mental thing is I gotta jump in the water. I gotta drown it out. I've got to do something. It's a moment of panic and unclarity, and we as an audience, like I said, is he having a heart attack? Is he freaking out? Is he the MK Ultra? All of this torture was used in order to warp his brain, so he's the guy that is working for Alpha. I mean, all that comes to the fore right here. And so he jumps in the water, and then he's rescued by, of all people, Rosita, who is also sick and barely alive at this point. And I have to say, throughout this scene, I couldn't help but keep thinking, is this all in Saddiq's head? is this like the ghost of Rosita, that she's fucking dead inside? Sorry for my swear. Is she dead inside one of the houses there? And this is Saddiq just kind of having this mental moment to try and sort through, and it's the ghost of Rosita that's helping him out. I have to say, I did think that throughout that. I can't necessarily say that that didn't happen, but pretty sure we usually don't go that far. I mean, okay, we did the whole Carol illusioning thing a bit, so it's not an unprecedented idea. But when Saddiq finally reveals what had happened and what is going on, with Rosita pushing beautifully too. No, I want the real thing. What's really going on? Not this BS construct excuses. I'm tired, there's sickness, I'm freaking out, whatever. What's really going on? It takes a friend, takes someone close to really do that push. And reinforcing their relationship in the scene before helps feed into this as well. We see that strong connection form in the scene before, so when Rosita pushes, we can see why Saddiq succumbs and tells her the truth. It's coming back. It's clear. I can't escape it. I am constantly living in that moment. Trauma is a horrible thing, and it affects people many different ways. And I think they handled this one really well. And again, if you're going to have your final episode, give an actor a chance to really envelop their character and do something powerful. And the whole scene talking with Rosita was it. That whole breakdown of what's really going on and how he is feeling and how it is affecting every aspect of his life. The fact that he's caught between I wanted to go away and I can't escape, but I don't want to forget, and I saw all my friends, and how am I supposed to talk about this in front? I mean, it just really powerful. Really strong. And yes, at the end, he does sort of realize, oh my God, I can't figure out why all of you are sick. There's no, you don't live in the same places. You don't eat the same food. You don't do the same things. What is the one thing that links everyone together? The water. So in the midst of releasing his trauma or exposing his trauma, sharing his trauma, he's able to get finally a clarity of vision that sort of makes sense from a psychological standpoint. And again, that's great. That moves the rest of the story forward. But just the moments of him, I felt everything that was going on. It's the scene I can't forget about watching. And it's why it's our scene of the week. So, of course, from there, Saddiq discovers the source of the sickness. Well, the physical source of the sickness, that it is coming through the water supply. But also the site that, because of that bent lever, it's someone from the inside that has to be doing it. And it's not Saddiq, because there would have been some sort of realization moment going on right there. But no, it ends up being, with our final scene, Saddiq's final scene, the truth that it is Dante who is in fact our inside man working for the Whisperers. And look, it bums me out. I mean, I know it's popped up on Reddit, it's pumped up on a bunch of sites. There's been an idea of, could it be Dante? He's a new character, he just sort of popped up. It would sort of make sense, an easy intro. And I think I even talked about at the end of last season, maybe at the beginning part of this season, how one of the great powers the Whisperers have is, because they are covered up, that we don't know what a lot of them look like. So it makes a potential for infiltration easier. Now our communities are also, I think, kind of battened down and suspectful of stuff. So, I mean, I was always curious what Dante's story was of getting into the community. Maybe that's something that we will learn later on. Maybe not too much, because I don't think he's going to last. But it's a great reveal. Because, again, Saddiq's blaming himself. He's pushing everyone away. And we see Dante coming in. Yeah, look, he's got boundary issues, if we established, and maybe his tone and such isn't right, but they work the scene nicely, is that he is his friend. He's concerned about him. And even the line that he gives of, I saw this immediately. This place works because it's a community, because we all work together. And so when one person fails, it's not their fault. It's the community together works, which is how everything succeeds. One doesn't work, the community comes and supports them up. It's a great scene, and I'm wondering if it's giving an insight into how Dante is seeing the world and maybe his position, because when Saddiq realizes, and I don't think Dante intended to do, even with the clicking of the, is that just like a Dante thing? Is that what he was doing in the barn? But a great bit as Saddiq flies back into it, and the memory and the hearing and the voices, and then we get the shot of Dante in the mask next to him. He's the one holding Saddiq, forcing him to watch as Alpha executes all of his friends. And that great final shot when it hits Saddiq and he sees Dante's reflection in the window, and it's got the mask on, and then slowly fades again, his brain like making that connection. And again, just another great tense as the two of them turn and face, and like, again, that non-verbal understanding that Dante can see that Saddiq realizes who he is, and Saddiq realizes who Dante is, and who's going to make the first move, and where is it going to go. They held that so nicely. And unfortunately, Saddiq moves too slow. Can't look at the X before you grab it. You can't make that obvious, man. You got to maybe even feint one way and then go the other way. Just, these are lessons for the future when you guys are caught in the zombie apocalypse. I'm just trying to help. But just really an emotional bit. And even from Dante's standpoint is, I didn't want it to be you. I didn't want it to be this way. Which makes me wonder, what is Dante's motivation here? He's got a community he can stay in. He doesn't need to work for Alpha. But is he one of those loyal ones, like the Watchers, the ones that watch the Guardians? That he has completely fallen under Alpha's spell. And I'm not sure, because again, he gives that speech about community and the importance of it, and that he saw what makes this place special immediately. Yes, he could be working for Alpha, but I also have to wonder, is he just covering his own ass? Was he sent in as Alpha's spy? Maybe even did the water thing and communing stuff, but has realized that he doesn't want to go. But he has to kill Saddiq because Saddiq can expose him. Now, the community has brought in Lydia. They're certainly willing to. We got Aaron working on Gamma, which I'll get to in a minute. Perhaps even knowing that he was a Whisperer, they would let him in. Maybe not trust him quite as much. Maybe that would be a longer deal. Now, entirely possible. Again, the whole sickness thing hasn't been for that long. Gamma has just been feeding the bodies into the water there, so it could possibly be that he is still working and he just doesn't want to be exposed. But it does just put it for an interesting bit, because I think Dante has made a connection here, and maybe he is split himself in, does he stay loyal or does he switch sides? The unfortunate part is, with this mood with Saddiq, is he's not going to last. This community will not allow him to live after killing their doctor. And now, then they'll have no doctor. Which is definitely not good. And lastly, of course, we have Aaron's work there with Gamma, trying to pull her over onto his side, trying to open up, trying to show her that the world can be bigger and more than what she expects. Not a whole lot going on with these scenes. I love the bit of the bread. You have bread every day. Yeah, we do. You want some? Food's always a good way to get to people. Really is. Talking about family. His daughter here is a drawing of mine. Gamma, of course, resistant initially, not even acknowledging that she had a sister, and that as time goes on, even that sort of gets exposed and bigger. And even the moment there where Aaron's like, look, I know that you're trying to gather data information on me. I love that. He's not being dumb. He's not being an idiot. I know you're here gathering information from me. But maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe we can just talk about stuff that doesn't mean anything. Just have that connection, because I think Aaron understands the bigger of a personal connection that he can make with Gamma, the more that she can be opening up to seeing the possibilities of the world around her. And much like Lydia says, that idea is infectious. But of course there has to be resistance. She is under the control of Gamma, of Alpha, who rules both with compassion and cruelty. We sort of see it with our Whisperer prisoner. We see it again with Gamma when she doesn't have all of the information that Alpha wants, that Alpha maybe doubts, is she keeping the focus right? And we go back to the switches. And cut in the arm, we saw the same scars on Lydia. Again, we get sort of a substitute daughter relationship forming here that is guised in the blessings of, I care about you and you are one of us. You are my Gamma. But also making sure that that loyalty is in question and reinforcing that with violence. It's the trauma that can shape people, and for Gamma, that's what keeping her under Alpha's thumb. Trusting that no matter what the enemy says, Alpha will always be truthful. Which, of course, is why when Lydia shows up, Gamma's world completely falls apart. Because all the Whisperers were told that Alpha killed Lydia, killed her own daughter. And the only thing about that scene is, look, I understand Lydia not wanting to feel like she's being used, but where did she think she was going? She had that conversation with Scarol. She went down with Scarol down into the jail cell to talk to the Whisperer prisoner just before he died. She walks in, so I'm assuming there's the understanding that that everyone thinks she's dead. That is why Scarol brought her in. Well, maybe she didn't tell her that. Not really sure what their conversation was in order for that to come down. But it just felt odd that I thought she went to the jail cell in order specifically to show that, and yet when she goes out to Gamma and they see that she's alive, then suddenly Lydia's like, you're using me, I'm choosing my own side. Sure, she's hurt, she's alone, she's isolated, I understand that. And maybe at this point, her purpose has been fulfilled because, like I said, with Gamma running off and that complete mental breakdown there, is she seeing that what she's been told are lies, that Alpha can't be trusted. Maybe she shouldn't have sacrificed her sister, and that frustration may be the thing that then starts to fracture the rest of the Whisperers. And lastly, I do want to take a moment to talk about water. Specifically, the tainted water that is making Alexandria sick. Kind of split in a couple of things. One, I'm not entirely sure how that's happening. Okay. Gamma is dumping bodies into the river. The river is feeding in towards Alexandria, and Alexandria appears to have a certain filtration system to separate drinkable water from undrinkable water. And I am guessing with that lever turned, it is bypassing the filters and allowing direct river water to come and be used for drinking, and that is why everybody is getting sick. Okay, I get the giant overage point there. However, the filtration system that they're using sucks. Makes absolutely no sense that you would have a lever right there that's like drinkable, undrinkable. You've got 3 of them and they all seem to be going to the same spigot. I don't really see the filtration system. They've got some other little thing there, but just it's one of those things where it's presented in a way so that visually, as a storytelling standpoint, we can easily see the difference between filtered and unfiltered. This is mixed, this lever goes, and that's the problem. Just the literal physical setup they had, I rewatched this several times, really makes absolutely no sense. You would not have filtered and unfiltered water or safe and unsafe water right next to each other like that. There's too much of a chance of any error actually, honestly happening, or a break in the line, or what, you turn it to unsafe and then up to safe, but there's still some water in the line post of that that's going to, it's just one of those frustrating points where I get why they visually did this, but from an actual functioning standpoint, really doesn't make any sense. There should just be one area that you're getting all the water from. And look, you don't even want unfiltered water being on, like, crops and things like that, or washing or so on. I mean, we've seen a lot of the food illnesses that go of Listeria and E. coli and stuff infecting lettuce and vegetables and recalls and things like that because you're using you're watering your crops with tainted water. It makes no sense why you would have these two very close. You know, have the filter switch like in the water wheel or something. Anything, the pipes that bringing it in, that it goes through the filter and then goes out, and then maybe do have that line there. It may not have been visually as simple to present to an audience and make it so very easily clear, but it would have made a little bit more sense. The other thing, of course, is Aaron. Has Aaron not mentioned to anybody that Gamma is dumping bodies in the water? He's going back every day. He's getting his bread. How has he not told everyone? Well, there are bodies being dumped into the water here. What, the water's being tainted? Well, fuck. Maybe we should just double check all the water systems. Again, it would have bypassed all of these other storylines, but it would have made a hell of a lot more sense. Because right now, I have no idea what the hell's going on with Aaron. I know, again, he's not just been camped out there waiting for Gamma because he keeps going back to get his fresh bread. So, just the physical way they set up the filter made no sense, and Aaron not telling anybody also makes no sense. I'm fine, this is the way the story played itself out, but it just bothers me. Oh, and one last little thing. Are these sick people tied down? I was really concerned when Saddiq was like gonna fall asleep next to Cheryl, that Cheryl's gonna die and become a walker and eat him. Wandering through town, a lot of sick people. I'm not sure what kind of caution that they are taking, and they should know in this post-zombie world, sick people are very dangerous if they die. So, just a thought. Alright, well this went a little longer than I intended it to, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for now. Now, next week is the mid-season finale, the last episode of the year. We get our big final setup before, of course, like I said, all of the next half of the season is pretty much going to be, I think, warring and battling and back and forth stuff. So our final bit of setup, finally have to find out what's going on in Oceanside. Looking forward to that. So really intrigued how they're going to set us up for our big mid-season finale. Very excited to see how it plays out. But unfortunately, we'll have to wait another week in order to see that. So for now, thank you, as always, for joining me with these reviews. And if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, you know where to put them, down in the section below. What do you guys think of this episode? Are you enjoying Saddiq's last little bit here? Do you have the same questions about Aaron not revealing anybody about the tainted water supply? Let me know what you guys think. Throw your thoughts down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Yeah, there's only one more episode of Walking Dead, but we are in the midst of The Mandalorian. So good. And, of course, final season of Mr. Robot. Don't want to miss any of those episodes. You want, if you're a subscriber, do that by clicking this button right here. Also, be sure to hit the bell right underneath for notifications, let you know whenever new reviews are being dropped. And we'll throw up a couple of those latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.